How's it going, people? Simon Slapper here, and this is your complete no-nonsense guide to the Lord of Vampyrium. Quest-wise, you need to have completed the branches of Darkmire. Skill-wise, you need 79 Construction, 78 Slayer, 76 Hunter, and 75 Constitution, Attack, Strength, and Defense. Item-wise, you require your full Darkmire disguise, and either a Blisterwood weapon or your Avandis Flail. I highly recommend Blisterwood weapons, even more so if you've overcharged them over in Patadymus Temple. Recommended wise, I highly recommend Draken's Medallion, and either using Mage or Range for easier boss fight towards the end. Additionally, you can't take any other items with you throughout this entire quest, so no overloads, no pack yaks, no food, no nothing else. It's all supplied in the quest. The only things you can take is your Darkmire Disguise, your Blisterwood or Avandis Flail, and Draken's Medallion. So once you've got all that nonsense, come over to Berderot, go southeast until you find this pier and speak to Venescula to start. So as always, quickly run through her chat. Don't need to worry about this nonsense, hold down space until it's done. Go ahead and accept this quest. And let's get started. Lord of Vampyrium, here we go. Carry on through her chat, same as usual. And once you're done, click on the boat just to your southwest. And travel over to the Ician Graveyard. So once you appear over in the graveyard, just to your north you'll find Safalan. Go ahead and speak to this bad boy. And as always, when it comes to NPCs, run through the chat. So once you finish talking to this fella, takes a little while, he does babble on. Eventually, we can now solve this little puzzle right by here. So these are a bit annoying, but if you follow exactly what I do, you'll also complete it without much trouble. So you want to rotate ring D first, and you want to make it go anti-clockwise. Then rotate ring D anti-clockwise for a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time, and finally a fifth time. Now you want to rotate ring C. Rotate that all the way anti-clockwise until eventually that turns blue. Then rotate ring B anti-clockwise till that turns blue, and then rotate ring A anti-clockwise until that turns blue. Nice and simple, wasn't it? Nothing to stress about, job done. So once you do that, it reveals a little statue. Go ahead and click on it. It's Queen Ephorete, or at least the statue of her. Once you do so, you'll receive a little necklace. Go ahead and speak to Safalan again, and run through his chat. You'll hand over the necklace, and he'll do some kind of voodoo stuff. I don't know. Either way, he gains superpowers. So quickly run through his chat once again, and he'll eventually decide to disappear on you. Good lad. Once he's done so, it's time to use your Draken's Medallion and head over to Mayerditch, option 3 when you click on it to teleport. Once you're in the Mayerditch hideout, run into the central room where you see all of the NPCs and the vampires, and you'll receive a little cutscene. Go ahead and spam through the chat for this one. Once you finish that cutscene up, head to your north and speak to Safalan. Run through all the dialogue. Just hold down that space button. And eventually, once these guys finally finish talking, it's time to move to the next area. Does take a little while, I'm not gonna lie. So once your epic track with those lads is done, go ahead and use your Draken Medallion once again. And this time, we want to head to option 4, Darkmire. Once you're in Darkmire, you'll be just outside the Arboretum. Go ahead and enter inside with the tree. Move forward a step or two, and poof, my key will appear. Once they do so, talk to Safalan. Run through all of his chat. Once you finish talking to him, talk to Velif just to the south. Velif Hertz. Run through his chat, then speak to him a second time and run through it again. make sure you talk to Vaylave twice. Once you finish talking to both of those fellas, it's time to head outside. So once you're outside, you want to run almost directly to your west. Right up to the wall, there'll be about 5 NPCs all standing there, including Vanescula. You want to talk to the NPC just to the left of Vanescula, the Overlord, and run through his chat. You'll ask him about some clothes, and once you've done so, you now want to head to where we killed Draken, which is just a touch to your southeast. It's the gigantic mansion. Make your way inside here. So once you're inside, go through the second door, and in this room you'll now find a chest. Go ahead and crack that bad boy open. Insert your own Zelda music. Once you do so, you will see some clothes. Make your way back outside and back to the Arboretum. Or the Arboretum, I should say. Either way, just go a touch to your north and head back inside to the giant tree. Alternatively, you could teleport with your Dragon's Medallion to save yourself 2 seconds. So once you're back in here with your crew, go ahead and speak to Vaylave Hertz once again. Run through the chat, choose option 1, yes. And everyone will now become ninjas. Run through the chat some more, and you will now receive the Draken outfit. The House of Draken outfit. Go ahead and change into those. So once you've got your own little badass outfit on, it's time to head back over to where Vanescula was now. So make your way outside of the Arboretum and make your way over to the west. Once you head over to Vanescula, if you do have your weapon equipped, you do need to take it off for this first section, otherwise they won't let you into the mansion. So make sure your weapon is unequipped, you have your disguise on, and at this point if you're using mage or range, you can take runes or arrows in with you. Don't remember if I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Those are the only other items throughout this entire quest you can take in to this Draken's castle at any given point in time. Once you finish talking to Vanescula, you'll have a little cutscene and you'll appear inside Draken's mansion. It's time to get some favour with these people, so make your way directly to your west, and there you will find Lady Nadezhda Shaddam. Go ahead and talk to her until some options pop up, and choose the option that says Humiliate Them, which is option 4. That'll gain us a little bit of favour. Head just a touch to your south, and this time you'll find Alexei Yovkai. This one you want to say the Defiant Old Man, which is option 1. A little bit more favour. This time head almost directly to your east on the opposite side of this entire area, and you'll find Misha Mermel. And you want to choose the option Blood Tithe, Show Mercy. Choose to Show Mercy then, which is option 4. And then click on one of the bats which keep on circling around the centre of the room, and you'll knock all 3 of them out, and that'll gain you a bit more favour. So once you've done all that, go ahead and speak to Vanescula. She'll be found right at the north. Once you do so, you'll have a little cutscene, and poof, there he is. It's the bad boy Draken himself. Run through the chat here, and eventually you'll be given a bunch of options to choose from multiple times whilst talking with Draken, and I cannot find any reason to choose any particular option. It seems to be completely random. Either way, you'll get thrown in prison, so choose whatever makes you happy. So continue to run through his chat, choose whatever options turn you on. Doesn't matter which ones you pick, you're still going to get thrown in jail. So eventually you'll be given the option to spring a trap or run away. Doesn't matter which one you pick. Either way, Draken will kick everybody's ass. Because he's awesome. But at this point, no need to join the fight. Just, you know, casual bystander. Innocent and all that. Eventually, the chat will continue and you'll be choking one of your buddies. And poof, we're now in prison. Happy days. Then ragdoll physics, son. So here we go then, once you appear in prison, you're going to need to change your camera angle just a touch and go ahead and click on the gate to open it. Each one of these gates will lower your life by about 10%, I do believe. Once you've opened it though, you are now free. Well, kind of. You now got to free all of your friends, which means half your health is now going to disappear. So just a touch to your north, another door, crack it open, you'll lose another 10th of your HP. Then over to the northwest side, crack open this one, and that'll be another chunk of HP gone. And this is kind of a common theme throughout the entire quest, and you will constantly take damage, but you do receive some food through the quest later on, so there's no need to worry. Either way, go ahead and open all of the doors in this room to free all of your friends. And finally, once they are all free, the doorway to your west will now be open. Your character will automatically run over to it, and you'll have a little chat for a bit. I'm sure you've figured it out by now, but you know, skip the chat. Once the door's open though, head over to the next room, and in here we have our second little dodgy puzzle. This one's a little bit more difficult. But then again, you're watching my guide, so no need to worry, just copy exactly what I do and what I say. So first off, rotate ring E clockwise until eventually it turns blue. Nice and simple. Next up, you want to rotate ring C, and you want to do it clockwise. This will turn the second ring in blue. You then want to rotate ring D anti-clockwise once, and twice, and a third time, and a fourth time, and then a fifth time. This point it'll now turn blue. Now you want to rotate your ring C, and you want to move it clockwise. That'll now turn blue. Then rotate ring B clockwise, and that is the second puzzle complete. Obviously, you can always go back to the video if you missed any of those. Nice and straightforward though. Run through the chat as soon as you finish that, and your next pathway will now open up, so make your way inside. Head up through your north, and you'll now be in the third room. Go ahead and speak to Safalan, who's just casually standing in the centre. Run through the chat, you get a little bit of a cutscene, and you'll be talking to some strange bloke inside a jail. Not to worry, doesn't matter what he says. Once you finish with the chat, go through the door at the top of the stairs. So you'll now appear in a brand new little corridor, and first things first, run through some more chat. Once you've done so, head into the eastern room, looks like some kind of bloody mess, and go ahead and take the munchies off the centre of the table. Once you do so, you'll now receive a little bit of food, and Ivan, who will casually follow you around throughout this entire quest, you can right click and reclaim, and he will give you a little bit of food if you do need to. He can run out though. You'll also receive a book whilst you're at it. Go ahead and open that up, read through it. While I say read, just spam through all the pages till eventually hit the end and close it. Then once you've done so, head to the room just a touch to your west and speak to Venescula. Run through all of Venescula's chats. Once you've done so, make your way further south. Now in this room we need to assign certain people to certain statues. So first off, start in the northwesternmost corner, click on the statue named Grazi and assign Velef to it, or Velef. The next statue, going in an anti-clockwise fashion, is the Elsef one. Choose Radigadi for that one, or Radigad. Then continuing anti-clockwise, your next one is the Pyra statue. Go ahead and select Kale for that one. Next statue anti-clockwise is your Mermal. Choose Mekritus for this one. The next statue after that anti-clockwise is Vitur. Go ahead and choose Polmafi for that. Next one is Shadam. Go ahead and choose Vertida for this one. Next one up is Yovkai. Choose Safalan. And the final statue is Drakens. Go ahead and choose Ivan for this one. So once everyone's been assigned to their own little statues and they've all paid the blood tithe, make your way south and check this doorway in order to pass through. And it is now unlocked. Run through the chat and escape through the cellar. At which point you'll now receive a nice little cutscene. Go ahead and spam through this one. But just before I carry on after this, pretty much from now on is the combat section of this quest, and some of it is timed, and you can save yourself a little bit of hassle if you just wait for a little second and kind of watch the section coming up before you do it. Throughout this entire quest, each section does save afterwards, so you can leave and go to the bank. If you die, then you'll appear in the Arboretum, so there's no real loss at all by doing this quest. But the next bit coming up, in order to start it, you go through the eastern doorway. I highly recommend re-equipping your weapon if you haven't already, and your protection praise you want to be using is protection from melee throughout every single fight throughout the rest of this quest. And if you do have it, then stat boosting praise will also come in very handy. So after this little cutscene, you get chased out of this room and you'll appear just outside. All you need to do as soon as you get outside is go a touch to your west. There'll be a giant statue of Draken. Click on it to rip the weapon off it, and then right click or click on the door we just escaped through in order to barricade it. So that's the statue right there. Go ahead and click on it to steal his weapon, and then click on the door to barricade and prevent Draken from following. And it's time for your first fight. So it's against this little Venator bloke. He's nice and straightforward. You want protection from melee on, as it'll save you a hell of a lot of damage. And if you want or fancy it, you can use your stat boosting praise as well to help speed this up. It's a fairly straightforward fight. There's not a whole amount to it. Make use of anticipation if you can, as that will kind of lessen the damage, albeit very slightly, but it'll lessen it nonetheless. And you have limited food through all of this. So, general rule of thumb, keep protection from melee on in pretty much every single one of these little fights, because everything uses melee against you and you have limited food, so lessening damage is key. Also, make great use of regenerate to get a large chunk of your HP back from all of your adrenaline. It does help, and if at any point you need some extra food, as I said, Ivan will be around for most of these fights. You can right click and reclaim to gain a little bit of extra food. So that's that section done. On to the next one then. I highly recommend pausing and watching the next section before you do it, as these are timed. So as soon as you appear up here, a timer will start at the top of the screen. The entire idea of this is you need to break furniture through the room and then pick up debris, and then you need to block the windows, which you can see on the right of the screen just now. The large pink shield looking things. Yeah, I don't know why they're pink or shield looking, but they are. So essentially you want to break all of these furniture pieces down in order to gain as much debris as possible. It takes 3 debris per window in order to block it. And in order to block the actual windows themselves, you need to click on it and then don't touch anything or re-click on the window until a little window pops up saying it's now 1 out of 3 complete, or 2 out of 3 complete, or 3 out of 3 complete. The reason for that is if you do click on it, it'll reset whatever progress you was in the middle of making of barricading the windows themselves. So this first one, you're pretty much guaranteed to have to fight another little vampire fella. So there's not a huge amount of rush for it, to be fair. You're going to be fighting it whether you like it or not. But you do need to barricade these windows nonetheless. So once you've destroyed the 2 tables and all of the chairs in the room, you should have a nice little surplus of debris right now. Go ahead and barricade all 3 of these windows and prepare for your vampire fight. Now, as I said already, once again, protection from melee is your best friend throughout this entire quest. If you have the regenerate ability, which I have on the second skill in my little action bar, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, sacrifice. If you have that, make use of it, it'll give you a touch of HP, and make use of anticipation to lessen the damage, even if it is a small amount, and try to keep your adrenaline up towards the maximum for once the fight finishes, in order to use the basic regenerate ability to gain a large chunk of HP back. Other than that, these are pretty straightforward fights for the time being. It's always against these vampires. And if you do watch these sections ahead of time for the next few bits, you can get away with not actually having to fight them for quite a while. Either way, once this fella's dead, he will then jump back out of the window. And it is time to barricade up these windows permanently. So that's what they look like when they're fully barricaded, like a massive scrap heap just against a window. Go ahead and do so on all 3 of the windows inside this room, and we'll be doing so in the next few rooms as well. So finally, once all 3 of your windows are done, we can move on to the next room. Right next to the door, just to your north, you'll find a statue, a blood tithe statue. Go ahead and click on that, it'll take a chunk of HP off you and instantly start the next section. So again, pause it, I highly recommend, and watch this ahead of time. As soon as you've opened that door, click on the table in the next room in order to break it down as quickly as possible. This one, it is possible to avoid having to fight one of the vampires, but you do need to be quick about it. So smash that table up, grab the debris, and instantly start barricading these 2 windows. You should have 6 debris on you, perfect amount in order to do so. The timing is fairly tight on this one, but it is easily an avoidable fight. And once you do finally barricade both windows, you want to break down all of the chairs as well as the shelves in the room in order to gain a nice surplus of that debris for the next room, as we will be barricading some more windows once again. Additionally, nice little bit of information if you are struggling against the fights against these vampires and you happen to die constantly. If you have any stat boosting potions, whether it's the regular, supers, extremes or overloads, then you can use your Dragon's Medallion to teleport back to the Arboretum, go to your bank, take a dose of your potions before coming in, deposit those potions back into your bank, and then quickly run back to the west where we entered Dragon's Tower, and you will still have the stat increase from your potions in order to do these fights if you are struggling. With that said, that is the second room done. So make your way over to the east on this corridor, and next to this door you'll find yet again another blood tithing statue. Go ahead and pop your arm in there to crack open the 3rd room and the 3rd section. So as soon as you're in, go ahead and run in and click on the table in order to lift it. There is a forced fight here. You do have to fight the vampire no matter what. So again, it's a simple case of protection from melee and making use of sacrifice, regenerate and anticipation as much as possible. So it was fairly straightforward. just go ahead and poke him in the face until he dies. If you happen to die, as I said, you will just reappear at the Arboretum. Go ahead and go into your bank, take some stat boosting potions, deposit them, and then come back in and try again. And if you run out of food or run low on food, you can right click on Ivan to reclaim, and he will give you a little bit of extra food. It is possible that he will run out of food. At any point you can teleport out and that should reset it for you. So once you've killed him, once again he will run out of the room and chat will automatically start. Just quickly run through it and you'll black out, at which point the table is now blocking that window. So once you finish that little fight, it is time to use that blood tithing statue just a touch to your south. On to the fourth section. Once you do so, this will crack open this doorway right by here. You want to make your way inside and start barricading the windows straight away. You should have more than enough in order to barricade both of these windows. If you did end up leaving and you will not have any debris, there are tables and weapon racks as well as chairs inside this room that you can break down in order to block these windows, although you will most likely have an inevitable fight on your hands. Either way, once both windows are barricaded and that vampire's dead if you had to fight him, you can go ahead and break some more stuff to get some more debris. And it is time for the third dodgy puzzle of this quest. So this one's fairly straightforward. First off, you want to rotate ring A clockwise twice. Then you want to rotate ring B clockwise once. Then rotate ring C clockwise 3 times. Then ring D clockwise twice. Then ring E clockwise once. Then rotate ring D clockwise once. Then rotate ring C anti-clockwise once. Then rotate ring B clockwise once. Rotate ring A anti-clockwise once. And finally rotate ring D clockwise once. Upon doing so, that should give you a nice little completed puzzle. And once you've done so, you can break up the rest of the stuff in the room if you haven't already. And if you have, it's time to head upstairs for the next little section. So you can go up the stairs right now. It's safe in this first room. There's no fights or anything. And once you appear, you'll have a nice little chat with all of your little buddies. So go ahead and spam that spacebar until eventually they shut up and start walking away. At which point you want to head east and head up the stairs. Once you appear in here, you'll have a little cutscene, and Vanascula and Savalan will do some dodgy, sneaky stuff. Go ahead and blatantly ignore them. And you want to click on the little blood pool in the side of the room. Once you do so, it'll turn blue. And once that is done, make your way back outside. So at this point there'll be a few scraps coming up, and we need to head through the western room for this section. But just before I go in there, I'll show you the trick I mentioned earlier about going to your bank, taking some pots, and then coming in to take some advantage of it. All you need to simply do is click on your dragon's medallion and just choose yes. You'll appear here in the Arboretum, make your way outside, and literally right next to you is the bank. Jump in there. Grab whatever pots you potentially need, such as prayer pots at this point, overloads, prayer renewals if you've got them, supers, extremes, whichever one you are capable of using. You could also use some rock till to overboost your HP, which is always nice. And once those are in your inventory, go ahead and eat your food, drink your drinks, and as quickly as possible rebank them. And then you run to your western side where we spoke to Vanessa towards the beginning of the quest in order to enter Dragon's Castle. Once over this western section, you can either click on the giant gate and choose option 1 yes, or talk to the guard just outside, choose option 1 yes. At which point you will then reappear at the last save state of your quest. So in our case, just after we did that little blood pool room, it's time to go to this western section and get some fights on the go. So once you've gone up the western stairs, you'll have a little chat with these fellas. All you need to do is click on that little blood pool towards your east, and that'll spin it around and it'll turn blue once again. Once that's happened, make your way towards the east, and as soon as you walk away you'll have a little cutscene and your friend will get beaten with a kick to the face. Time to kill another vampire then, and this time with the bonus of some pots and your prayer back. This should be an even easier fight than it was before, quite absurdly easy to be fair. Same as always though, tactics for killing these, protection from melee, you can use some stat boosting prayers if you wish, make use of regenerate, as well as sacrifice and anticipation to limit the damage you take. And if you need food for whatever reason, as you can see I teleported out, I have no food in my inventory. Right click on Ivan to obtain some. In this case he does get knocked out, but you know, he's available in the rest of the fights except for the very final one. But that's special. So once you've killed it, go ahead and speak to Ivan to wake him up. Run through the long chat once again. And once you finish talking to him, go ahead and make your way downstairs. So there's only one pathway left to go now. It's time to head to your north. Straight through the central chamber where we can see the next puzzle coming up shortly. You'll also find Ivan in the central room. Go ahead and right click reclaim to obtain some food. He should give you 4 meat. If you did leave, that is. Carry on through and go through the next doorway. Go ahead and click on the blood valve once again to turn it around, and this one will also turn blue. Run through the chat again and make your way back outside. As you do so, you'll get a little cutscene, and Draken will appear to kick the shit out of your friends. Should appear back in the central chamber now, and this time you'll find that the puzzle is now available for us to do. At which point you want to rotate ring A clockwise 4 times. Then turn ring B anti-clockwise twice. Then turn ring C anti-clockwise twice. Then ring E anti-clockwise 3 times. Then ring D anti-clockwise 3 times. Ring C clockwise 3 times. Ring B anti-clockwise 3 times. And lastly, ring A clockwise 3 times. Once you do so, that'll be the final puzzle complete. And pretty much everything coming up next is the entire boss fight. It's in a few sections, this one, and it's kind of annoying to do. So I highly recommend going to the bank and taking some stat boosting pots or anything along those lines for this fight, as it can be a kind of an annoying fight to actually do. He can potentially heal himself quite a few times, so all the damage you can get, the better. So for this section, I highly recommend watching at least the fights stage by stage before you go in and kill them, just so you kind of understand what's going on. They're fairly straightforward though, and there's not a huge amount to them. But still, it can be quite a fight. Quite a few people complained that they was having trouble with this one, so hopefully I can sort that out for you and make this easy. So once you're ready, head back into the castle, and you'll appear back in this little central chamber. You should start chatting instantly, just spam space, and eventually you'll get teleported up the stairs and onto this little fight arena. Run through the chat again. This one takes a little while. And your first fight comes in a few stages in and of itself. So straight away, this begins with Draken summoning 3 Venators, those little vampire fellas. All you need to do is attack the one. Make sure you try not to use your AoE abilities here, as if you do hit one of the others, then they will join the fight as well, and that's honestly just a giant pain in the ass and a waste of time. So all you need to do is fight one at a time, avoid AoEs, and same as always, because they're basic vampires, just chuck on protect from melee, some stat boosting prayers if you wish, and mow them down. The only other quirk to this entire fight is, as you can see, Draken does fly around the arena. Now you can see Draken's little yellow dot on your minimap at all times on this one, and he does randomly teleport about, and you do kind of want to keep an eye on him, as if you're standing underneath him as he glides across, he will deal some huge damage to you. I do believe it's about 20% of your max HP in damage just for flying over you, which is kind of a huge blow, considering you've got very basic food materials for these fights. So all there is chuck on that protect from melee, mow them down because they're basic vampires, you shouldn't have too many problems here, and just avoid Draken as he's flying around. And that is pretty much it for this first stage. Not a lot to it, eh? One little bonus is taking advantage of your regenerate skill in order to save your food for the second section. Is actually kind of handy. Once your adrenaline's up, before engaging the next vampire, you can just stand there with max adrenaline, use regenerate to regain a large chunk of your HP before you start the next vampire fight. So you can do this in between the first and the second one. That should keep your health pretty much towards max, and you'll still have all 10 of your meat on you for the next fight. And in case you're wondering, if you do die here, again you will appear at the Arboretum, and once you come back in, you will receive 10 of your meats at the start of the fight straight away. So 10 food is your maximum for these fights. It's all about damage mitigation to the best of your abilities for every single one of these. Once you've killed all 3 of those little vampires, or Venators, whichever you want to call them, turn off your prayer, make use of your regenerate to get your HP back as much as possible, and go ahead and make your way over towards Venescula, or talk to her to start the next section. If at this point you need to tele out, go ahead and speak to Venescula to start the cutscene with Draken reappearing, and then mid cutscene just click anywhere on the screen, try to use food, talk to Draken or talk to Venescula. Any one of those will cut the cutscene in half and stop it from activating, but it'll still save your progress past that first stage. At which point you can go back to your bank and restock your stat pots and whatever else, take another dose, and come back in. For this second section, you're fighting against Draken and Draken alone, although he does have a few abilities that you need to be wary of. Tactics are still the same for the most part. Keep protect from melee on. Make use of your anticipation of freedom, but try to keep them back as he can use a few abilities where they are needed. So for this entire fight, he has a few moves. When he says ha 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 above his head, he'll start to chuck bombs randomly around the room, much like the Nomad fight, at which point all you need to do is run away from them by 2 or 3 squares to avoid any damage from them. Be wary though that you do not run too far away from Draken throughout all of this fight, as he will then say run all you want, at which point he'll do a massive amount of damage. Roughly about 50% of your HP, I do believe, if you run away. So try to stay relatively close towards Draken, and when you avoid the bombs, go 2 or 3 squares away from them, just to avoid the damage. Additionally, another move he can use throughout this entire fight is still trying to run, or he'll say you think you can escape, one of those two, at which point he will then stun you. If he starts to say it, instantly use your anticipation or hopefully have it up just as he does say it, although that's random luck. And if you do so, you will not be stunned and you will also not take some monstrous damage. If, however, you do get stunned, make use of freedom as quickly as you can to escape the stun. You will take a fairly huge chunk of damage, but nowhere near as much as you would if you're just stuck there like a melon. But that's the fight in total. There's not a lot to it. If he says ha ha ha, it's bombs. If he says still trying to run or you think you can escape, he's going to stun you, make use of anticipation and freedom. And if he says run all you want, you run too far away and he's just eaten 50% of your HP and you're probably fucked. That's pretty much the fight in general, to be fair. And that is the end of your second stage of the fight. So again, if you want to move on to the next one, talk to either the fella who's standing next to the pillar or Vinescula. And that'll start the next little cutscene and the next section. At which point you can use your Dragon's Medallion once again, head to the Arboretum, go back to the bank, as you can see I'm doing on screen right now, to restock up on your stat boosting pots. I highly recommend doing it for this part, as the next one is quite annoying. So again, I do recommend pausing before you go into the next stage, just so you know what's coming and what to do, rather than running in there blind. But I do recommend getting your stat pots out of your bank and taking some doses before you do go in for this one. So it's time for phase 3 or round 3, however you want to say it then. So grab your stat boosting pots, neck some of those, pop them back in your bank, make your way back over to Dragon's Castle. As soon as you appear, it's time for a chat. Just hold down space to run through it and the fight will eventually start. So he's got different attacks this time around. You are fighting just Dragon on his own again. This time, ignore what happened in phase number 2. Phase 3 is a little bit different. He's only got 2 special attacks on here. One is when he says fear me, he'll turn into a cloud of dust, and simple tactics for this is run away. As soon as he says fear me, literally fear him and run the fuck away. Best way to make use of this little tactic is, well, you can use Surge and the range equivalent. That'll spiral you away, quite far away, to the point where it's pretty much impossible for Dragon to catch up for you and you have nothing to fear. If you end up getting caught by him though, you will be taking quite huge amounts of damage, so as soon as you see fear me, run away. His other attack, as you can see on screen right now, is when he says embrace darkness. You'll start causing a giant Hadouken, and basically you need to run over to Safalan and he'll pop up a blue shield and that'll save you from it. Essentially this entire fight is a weird mix of the Demon Slayer boss fight and the Draken boss fight. Quite literally. So fear me, he turns into a cloud, run away from it, nice and straightforward, really doesn't cause you any problems. One extra little tactic you can use whilst he's doing this is you can turn off your prayer to save yourself a bit of time on your prayer counter, and you can also make use of regenerate. A little bit, but it is there and you can do it. Because he stays in cloud form for quite a period of time, you can just surge away from him, get straight out of combat, chuck your prayer off so you're keeping your prayer. If you're using prayer in yours, you'll even gain some back, and then use regenerate to use up all of your adrenaline to get a large chunk of your HP back, saving you on your food. And his other attack is embrace darkness. He doesn't really seem to use it when I was fighting him, but he starts firing a Hadouken. Just run over to Saflan. For the most part, keep this entire fight towards Saflan. Just stand next to him at almost all times, or very close to him. And if he ever says fear me, run around in a giant circle and then make your way back to Saflan and pummel him some more. That is it for phase 3. And there's not much else to it. As you can see there, I did get hit by the little cloud, just a touch, and it took off about 2k damage, but Surge gets you out of danger straight away, or the range equivalent will also do so. Highly recommend using those if you have them. Once he's down though, end of phase 3, happy days. It's time to move this fight on to the 4th and the 5th phase then. In order to do so, you can go ahead and talk to Safalan, who's over at the obelisk. Well, Potty, or whatever the hell his name is. This guy right here. And that'll start the next section. So go ahead and talk to him, and a giant whirlpool will appear in the centre. And I highly recommend going back to your bank and taking some more pots for this fight. As the 4th and the 5th one a bit harder. The 4th more than the 5th. The 5th is kind of laughable if you're using mage or range, to be totally fair. So yeah, straight into the 4th one then. I highly recommend pausing it, and I do recommend getting those pots, which I'm going to do so now. So once you've finished potting up and whatever, head back to Dragon's Castle, and once you do so, you'll appear here. Go ahead and jump in the portal to start Phase 4. So Phase 4 is a mixture of Phase 2 and Phase 3. He uses abilities from both of them. I didn't once see Embrace Darkness throughout this entire fight, so I'm pretty sure he cannot use it because you and him are the only people on the battlefield. So you don't need to worry about that. He does like to use the Fear Me, turning into a cloud and chasing you quite a lot on this one, and I highly recommend turning off your prayer and making use of Regenerate to get a large chunk of your HP back throughout all of this fight. In fact, if you're using mage or range, you can quite literally do the whole hit and run tactic throughout the vast majority of this fight. If you can make use of Surge and the range equivalent to back away from him, you can kind of stay well out of his attack range and just mow him down, taking as little damage as you want. Additionally, a nice little addition to this one is if you happen to use Asphyxiate or Destroy or similar skills to those, where it holds the mob in position or attacks over a period of time, he seems to instant stun you, and the only way out of it is by using Freedom, and once you're stunned you do take a fairly hefty amount of damage. So avoid using Asphyxiate or Destroy or similar skills, as they will probably kill you rather than help you out. And of course he does use his bombs from Phase 2, so ha will give you the bombs lobbed about everywhere, same as before, just run away from him, no problem at all. And he doesn't seem to use his little ability where if you run far away from him, he will then just deal 50% of your HP and damage. That doesn't seem to happen either. So all you got to worry about then is ha equals bombs, run away from them, no problem at all. Still trying to run or you think you can escape is stun, so use anticipation or freedom in order to get out of it. And he'll also use Fear Me to turn into a dust cloud. All you got to do is run away. And that is pretty much it. That is the entire fight in a nutshell. When he uses his bombs, you can just simply run away. You can use hit and run tactics. When he turns into a dust ball, just run away, turn off prayer, chuck on regenerate, and then turn your prayer back on once you finish regenerating. The only other thing to worry about is literally a stun, so making use of anticipation and freedom and having them available at all times, or as much as physically possible, is your best bet for the entire fight. You will take a fairly hefty amount of damage if you try to take him head on, so making use of the hit and run tactics will help out quite a huge amount. And as you can see, making use of regenerate, as you can see on screen right now, does improve your chances quite a huge amount, as it is essentially an extra free 1 to 2k HP depending on your current constitution points. Once you've mowed him down, that is it for Phase 4, and you'll just kneel in front of his own throne. And that's pretty much it. So Phase 4's over and done with. It's time for Phase 5. So this is the 5th and the final phase, and if you never use mage or range for any of the fights prior to this, I highly recommend using it for this because it is laughably easy with mage or range. I imagine using melee you probably take a fairly hefty amount of damage, but still pretty easy, but mage and range makes this trivial. So he gets stabbed in the back, and now he has none of his abilities at all. All he does have is super attack speed like Koshkai from the Fremennik Trials, and he hits, well, fairly constantly and for decent numbers, so nice simple tactic, as you've probably already worked out, is run, hit, hit, run, hit. Win. And you pretty much take no damage throughout this entire fight. Yeah. A bit disappointing, isn't it? You go through all of this and the final battle is just you running around poking him in the head and he does no damage to you. Simple as that. Quite literally that easy, if you use mage or range. So, as soon as he's dead though, that is the end of all the fights for this quest, and it is time to finish up. So go ahead and click on Draken to kill him, run through the chat, and eventually you'll make a kebab out of him. Vampire kebab. So as soon as he's dead, go ahead and speak to Venescula, and I'll start a massive long rant, and a bunch of stuff happens. Go ahead and spam spacebar to skip all of it. Who needs story? Come on. So eventually Venescula will go ahead and poke Saflan, and poof, he's dead. Ah, bad times. Run through the chat some more blah blah blah, stuff happens, blah 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 blah. River of Blood is out, so the guide for that will be out very shortly, and I'll even put an annotation at the end for you, so you can go straight into River of Blood after this if you want. Either way, spam space, it does last forever. Fair play. Eventually, you'll be asked to tally out, go ahead and do so. Once you're out, you'll appear back in the Birderot hideout. They'll have a little chat between themselves. Go ahead and spam space. And eventually, once you regain control, go ahead and speak to Ivan. So speak to Ivan, choose option 1, yes, he'll teleport you up to Patadermis, and once you're here, run through the chat some more. Then go ahead and speak to Drezel, and choose nothing. It's just to make sure the conversation's gone through, that's all. Once you've done that, home teleport to Varrock, and we now need to speak to King Rold. So once you appear here, King Rold is directly north. You just run straight up north into Varrock Castle. He's in the first room on the east side as soon as you enter. So once you're up here, go ahead and talk. And choose option 1, talk about the Lord of Vampyrium. Spam through his chat. You'll then get a couple of cutscenes. And that, ladies and gents, is quite literally quest complete. That is everything you need to know to get this done quickly without messing about. So, reward wise, what do we get? 2 quest points, 75k construction XP, 50k Slayer XP, 50k hunting XP. You also gain a Tome of XP 4th edition with 3 charges. Each one of those charges will give you 75k XP in a chosen skill at or above level 75. You also gain the Sun Spear, a new weapon that will automatically burn Firewatch corpses when you kill Vire Lords or Ladies. This doesn't actually count towards your achievements or your achievement diaries though, as you do physically need the corpses. Go to Patadermis and crack them open that way. You also keep the House of Draken outfit, so there you go, shiny things. You also gain cosmetic Draken wings, and access to 2 titles, which is Your Name of the Maya Key and Your Name of Vampyrium. You also gain, obviously, 2 treasure hunter keys and your 2 hearts of ice if you're not an Iron Man. And there we go, ladies and gents, that is quite literally it. Lord of Vampyrium complete, happy days. We've stabbed Draken in the face, Venescula's gone on a mad one, she's gonna fuck up Varrock. That is literally coming up next in River of Blood. And if you want a guide for that one, it'll be on screen probably around here somewhere. Poof. There you go, people. Until next time, catch you all later. Have a good one.